Okay, NAL 2022 season stage number 1, play date number 2, predictions. So indeed, we did see the first day just yesterday. Today is the 30th of March. The play days are all back-to-back days within each week. I suppose each week has 2 back-to-back days, except for the final one, which just has a single play day in the week. So, right, every, Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be seeing play days for the foreseeable future. And so these videos are kind of need to be back-to-back by nature as well. I'm not going to talk too much about the previous day's matches. I'll say that for a recap video, but I will need to probably reference them to justify some of my predictions. And so I guess let's just get out of the way what I predicted and what I got right. So I picked Beast Coast over Parabellum. I think Parabellum was the community's favorite to win this, and I did pick Beast Coast. I had a hunch, and I was really sweating during that match, but they did end up pulling it out. Astralis shocked everybody, and maybe beating Sonics didn't seem out of the realm of possibility. It seemed unlikely given that Sonics almost always beat Astralis / Disrupt. I think lifetime, they've beat them like one time, and it wasn't in the NAL. It was in maybe an SI qualifier or something they were saying on stream, but I don't remember when it was exactly. In NAL matches, Sonics has always beaten them, and it's gotten progressively more in the Sonics' favor, and it has swung heavily the other way. 7-1 destruction. And I do attribute a lot of that to the new map. We'll have to see if Sonics continue to look not good and Astralis continues to look incredible, then I mean, I'll just give it to Astralis being way better than them. But for now, I'm going to attribute a lot of that to maybe getting back into the swing of things, but mostly to the Skyscraper pick, which is, I mean, you know, Sonics let it go through. You do get the 4 bans, but clearly they thought that they would do well on it, and maybe it also might have something to do with the coaching change. Maybe Goddess just isn't as, I don't know, strategically good as Jobro, or she needs more time to get into the swing of things or whatever. There could be a multitude of reasons, but for now, I'm going to put it up to not entirely a fluke, but a little bit of a fluke. So I'll take that into consideration for predictions. Dark Zero versus Mirage, expected result. I did say I would have liked to have seen Mirage go 11 or more rounds, and they only went 10 rounds. They got 3 rounds on Dark Zero. Not a terrible performance. There was definitely potential there, but it was about as solid of a victory as I expected. And then Auction versus TSM. Oh, I knew I should have picked Auction. I went with TSM, and everyone's like, oh, bro, come on. They're the world champions. Like, they're not that bad in best of, but, and, you know, we'll have to see going forward if TSM is actually bad at best of ones, or they just have fallen off since the championship, or what it is. It could just be the Auction is really good, and I do think there's a big possibility that that is the case. I thought Auction would be incredible. I just thought it would take them a little bit more time to warm up. We even went to Theme Park, which TSM was one of the best, if not the best, NA team at previously, so I don't know. Auction really showed them up. It wasn't a destruction. It was a 7-4, but it didn't go to max regulation, didn't go overtime. None of the games actually went overtime, which that tends to be the case in NAL. We don't usually get a lot of overtime. We'll have to see going forward. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise, and it was unfortunate to get that one wrong. And then finally, Space Station versus Xset. It was a pretty well expected result. It looked like Xset was going to beat them down early on. They went up like 3-1 or something. Space Station just took a little bit of time to get going. They just need a little bit of time to, I guess, to adapt to Xset or wake up or whatever, because nobody has bought on Xset. So Space Station just had to see what they were doing, and then they won like 6 rounds in a row and closed out the game. They did have to clutch a few of those rounds. Xset doesn't look terrible or anything, but Space Station definitely did look solid. Something to note, which I'll probably talk about a little bit more in the future, we did see only new maps. If you're counting Bank as still a new map, it is the newest map besides the 3 that just got added in. So we only saw Theme Park, Borders, Skyscraper, and Bank, which is super cool. No Oregon, no Clubhouse, no Villa. None of that stuff. So I imagine this trend won't hold up as strongly going forward, but it was very nice to see for the first day. And right, so one more time, the predictions. I did get correct Beast Coast over Parabellum. I got incorrect Astralis over Sonics. I got correct Dark Zero over Mirage. Incorrect Auction over TSM. And correct Space Station over Xset. So I have 3 out of 5 so far. I definitely could have had 4 out of 5, but well, you know, TSM hammer lifting gave me a little bit too much confidence in them. And I'll take it into consideration going forward. Maybe I'll put more faith in them if they beat Xset pretty badly, and I'll attribute it more to Auction being really good. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's talk about the actual predictions coming up. First game, Sonics versus Parabellum. They have like the same color logo, so it gets a little bit confusing sometimes just at a glance. Sonics versus Parabellum, and I will note these are all 5 of the top 5 teams going into the stage versus bottom 5 teams. It's not all 5 of the teams that won. 2 of the top 5 teams did play each other, so only one of Auction or TSM could win, and then Sonics also lost their game, so only Space Station and Dark Zero actually beat a bottom tier or whatever you want to call it team before. And also not on this page, they gave them like a a hierarchy of importance or a precedence or whatever in terms of who's on the left and who's on the right. I guess based on how well they did last year, I think it goes on here like Sonics, Dark Zero, Oxygen, Space Station, TSM, Mirage, Beast. No, I don't know. Astralis, Mirage, Parabellum, Xset. It's something like that. And just I don't know if they're trying to suggest something, but I think they just had to like give someone some amount of precedence. They decided to do that instead of just fully random. So you'll see like Xset is always on the right, the bottom / the right, and then on the left always is Sonics, and because they won NAL finals, Xset because they got relegated, and then so on and so forth. It's just it's not really important, but I just thought that was kind of cute on here. In the future, I might use a different thing to show it because this has more information than I really need to cover, but for now I'm just gonna stick with this. Okay, so yeah, Sonics versus Parabellum. Parabellum is technically the highest ranked team that lost because they got the most rounds of any teams that lost in their matchup, but they also played it was a tight match, and they played, I don't know, one of the lower tier in theory teams. We'll have to see how Beast Coast does going forward, but that was sort of the low tier matchup for the day. And so Parabellum on a loss, Sonics on a loss. Sonics only got 1 round, Parabellum got 5 rounds, but I'm still going to give Sonics the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to assume that they'll take that loss, and it'll really motivate them to get back in the swing of things. They are the NAL champions, and I think this will be a little bit of a wake-up call, especially losing to Astralis. That is perhaps the one team they do not want to be losing to, maybe Oxygen as well. So yeah, they'll be fired up and ready to beat Parabellum. And again, I'll also attribute some of Sonic's struggles to playing on Skyscraper. And then Parabellum looked pretty good, but again, it was against Beast Coast, so it's still unclear for a lot of these teams. I'm going to give it to Sonics. If they get crushed here, I'm going to have to re-evaluate the power rankings going forward. But yeah, I think most people will pick Sonics, and I think it's still a fairly safe pick. Okay, Space Station versus Mirage. This seems like the easiest one to call of the day, I would say. Space Station looked pretty good. A little bit shaky in a few rounds that they won and lost. They did have to clutch some of those rounds that they won, but they were super dominant in some, like flawless round, I think an almost flawless round, one round where they went from a 3v5 to a 3v0 in like 5 seconds. Space Station is still shooting straight, and as Bosco gets better and better at the IGL role, I think this team will get even better, and they were already the team to beat in best of 1. So and Mirage just didn't look terrible versus Dark Zero, but they just looked a tier below. So I'm definitely going to give this to Space Station, as I'm sure like 90% of voters will, or something like that. Oxygen versus Astralis. This looks like the game of the day, which is a little bit surprising. Oxygen was the 2nd place team in stage 3, and Astralis was the 7th place team. They both had a swingy 2021 seasons, I guess. Well, Astralis less swingy, just a downward trend, 3rd, 5th, 7th, I think. And Oxygen got what, 1st, 7th, or 6th in stage 2? I don't recall which one. And then 2nd in the last stage, so they just had a bad stage 2. Yeah, Oxygen just beat the world champions fairly handily, but not a destruction. And Astralis just beat the NAL finals champions in an absolute destruction, 7-1. Iconic went nuclear, just by far the best performance of the day. Incredible. I still want to give it to Oxygen here, though. They definitely beat, I mean, I don't want to say a higher tier team. I think I even had Sonics higher than TSM on the power rankings because we are now back in NAL, back in best of 1s and whatnot. But I do like the look of Oxygen better. Astralis still has a little bit more to prove for me, given their performance last year, and Oxygen still had something to prove with the new pickups, but I think they've already proved that the new pickups are working out very well. Newers was incredible. I'm going to give Oxygen over Astralis, but this could go the other way. And if Astralis beats Oxygen fairly convincingly, Astralis is already looking like one of the best teams in the league. TSM versus Xset. This one's a little bit tricky to call. If this was on the first day, everyone's picking TSM, and probably even going into the day, everyone's still picking TSM because it is TSM. Xset's also a fairly popular org, but not nearly as much so as TSM. TSM got 4 rounds yesterday, Xset got 3 rounds yesterday, and they were both going up against pretty good teams. 2 of the better teams, the top 2 teams from stage 3, I suppose. Oxygen and Space Station. I'm still gonna go with TSM here. Not all of my faith in TSM is shook, but when they face some of the top tier teams, my faith is a little bit shook. So I guess they face Mirage, and then they face Space Station. So I guess this game and the next game coming up for TSM will be very telling. If they can get good wins, then I think they're back on track, and Oxygen is actually just really good. I'm going to pick TSM over Xset. I mean, I'm just picking all the top 5 teams or whatever, but I do believe this is what's going to happen. Xset looked pretty good on defense, but they definitely struggled on attack. They just don't seem to have a ton of coordination or focus. The IGL situation still seems confusing, something they'll probably have to figure out. Bodega seems like a good leader for them, but you know, he can't be talking to them outside of the attack pauses. So TSM pick here. And then Dark Zero versus Beast Coast. So maybe the most exciting match of the day in terms of gameplay will be Oxygen versus Astralis, but this one, in terms of the storyline that has now been built up with all of the stuff that Drip was saying in his interview, talking about how he was coming for Canadian, this will be a big proving ground for Beast Coast. Yes, they beat Parabellum, which is a seeming low-tier team coming into the thing. Now, if they can beat Dark Zero, who I had it, I think, 5th on the power ranking, so the bottom of that top 5, maybe this is their chance to crack into that top 5, improve themselves. Who do I want to pick here, though? Dark Zero versus Beast Coast. So, depending on what map they go to, Dark Zero seems like a team that might, the new Dark Zero, which is seemingly more adaptable, more flexible than the old Dark Zero. They used to be super rigid, and they really struggled with crazy stuff and aggression and whatnot. But I do think with new players like Pambazoo and NJR, they should be able to handle it better, and Beast Coast is definitely a super wild team. They definitely had some issues against Parabellum, but they also had a lot of firepower and clutch potential. I guess I'll give it to Dark Zero, and so at this point I'm just going with all of the safe picks, but it is what it is. This might be the only day that it's like a top team versus a bottom team. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, I guess I'll go with Dark Zero. I'm going to be rooting for Beast Coast. I usually am heavily rooting for the team I predict, even if I don't like them, because I really want to get the predictions right. But yeah, I just feel like that's a Dark Zero game. Them coming off a pretty solid win, Beast Coast coming off a win, but a shakier one, and both teams are going to be fired up to beat the other one, just like in every match, but especially after the Drip trash talking that we saw. So yeah, I'm very excited for that one. And well, unfortunately, is the last one of the day. And there's a ton of stuff I want to talk about in regards to the whole broadcast and the previous games. But again, I think I will save that for the recap video, which maybe I'll record right after this. I don't know. Okay, but right, so those are my predictions. I'm going with all the guys on the left. So Sonics, Space Station, Oxygen, TSM, and Dark Zero. And well, for my predictions, I want to get those right, but in terms of the league being shaken up a little bit spicy and whatnot, I'd like to see perhaps some of the teams on the right take some wins. Maybe Astralis, maybe Beast Coast, Mirage. This would be the most insane victory, though, I think. Okay, so yeah, with all of that being said, I suppose if you guys have any predictions, if you think any of these are going to go the other way, if you have some bold predictions to make, leave them below. And with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.